There is a version of you that never existed. Not because it couldn't, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped moving toward it. Most people live their entire lives within a few miles of where they were born, not geographically, but mentally. They inhabit the same fears, the same excuses, the same invisible ceilings their parents had and their parents before them. And the strangest part? They never even noticed the walls. Let me tell you about a man named Thomas. Thomas was brilliant. Everyone who met him said so. His teachers said so. His friends said so. By 22, he had ideas that could have changed things, real things, the kind of ideas that rearranged the furniture of the world. But Thomas had a habit. Every time he stood at the edge of something great, he found a reason to step back. It was never the right time. He wasn't quite ready. He needed one more year of preparation, one more course, one more sign from the universe that it was safe to leap. Thomas is now 53. He is comfortable. He is pleasant. And somewhere behind his eyes, in a room he rarely visits anymore, there is a man pounding on a door that was never fully opened. Thomas is not a tragedy. Thomas is a pattern. Because what stopped Thomas wasn't lack of talent. It wasn't bad luck. What stopped Thomas was something far more subtle and far more devastating. It was the slow, quiet addiction to potential itself. You see, there's something seductive about the idea of what you could become. As long as you haven't fully tried, you haven't fully failed. The dream stays pristine, untested, perfect. It sits on a shelf in your mind like a painting you've always meant to finish, and every day you walk past it, you feel a small warm glow of who you might be someday. That glow feels like hope. But over time, it becomes a substitute for action. Psychologists call parts of this phenomenon self-handicapping. It's the way humans unconsciously create conditions for their own failure, so they have a ready explanation if things go wrong. We procrastinate so we can say we didn't really try. We stay perpetually in learning mode, so we never have to enter doing mode. We tell ourselves the story that we're just warming up, just preparing, just almost ready. But here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to hear. Preparation without action is just procrastination wearing a respectable coat. There's another force at work too, and it lives in the people around you. Not because they're cruel, not because they want to see you fail, but because your growth is, in a strange and uncomfortable way, a mirror held up to their stillness. When you start becoming more, the people who have stayed the same sometimes feel less. And so, quietly, unconsciously, they pull. They ask whether you're sure about this. They remind you of the last time something didn't work out. They say things like, "I just don't want to see you get hurt." And they mean it. And it still keeps you small. Jim Rohn once said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And while that's been debated and dissected, the core truth in it is undeniable. Environment is not just where you live. Environment is what you allow to be normal. If everyone around you treats comfort as the ultimate goal, you will slowly, inevitably absorb that value as your own. But let's go deeper than environment. Let's go to the internal architecture. Most people are not failing because of the world outside them. They are failing because of the story inside them. The story that says they're not the kind of person who does big things. That success is for other people. That the extraordinary life is reserved for those born with something they weren't given. And that story didn't appear from nowhere. It was written by small moments. The teacher who said your idea was silly. The parent who told you to be realistic. The time you tried something bold and it didn't work and everyone around you nodded like they expected it. Piece by piece, experience by experience, a ceiling was built inside you. And it was built by the very people and moments that were supposed to help you grow. The question is not whether that ceiling exists. For most of us, it does. The question is whether you're going to keep living under it. Here's what the people who actually reach their potential understand, and it's not what the motivational posters tell you. It's not that they believed harder, or wanted it more, or found some secret morning routine. What separates them is something simpler and far more difficult. They learn to act in the presence of fear rather than waiting for fear to leave. Because fear never leaves. Doubt never leaves. The feeling that you're not quite ready never leaves. Those who become who they were capable of becoming simply stopped waiting for those feelings to disappear before moving. They moved anyway, awkwardly, imperfectly, sometimes terribly. And then they moved again. There is a Japanese philosophy called Kaizen. It means continuous improvement through small, consistent steps, not dramatic leaps, not transformative moments of sudden clarity. Just 1% better every single day, showing up even when it feels meaningless, even when the progress is invisible, even when no one is watching and no one is applauding. The power of Kaizen is not in any single day. The power is in what those days become when they're strung together over years. A river doesn't cut through rock by being violent. It cuts through by being relentless. You may be thinking right now that your situation is different, that you have responsibilities, limitations, real constraints that make this all sound like beautiful theory. And you're right. Real life is heavy. Real life has weight that abstract ideas don't acknowledge. Obligations, finances, people who depend on you, time that disappears faster than it should. But here's what I've come to believe, and I want you to sit with this for a moment. The greatest disservice you can do to the people who love you is to model a life of unlived potential. Children don't learn from what you tell them. They learn from what they watch you do. When they watch you shrink from your own life, when they watch you choose safety over growth, they absorb that as the template for theirs. Reaching your potential is not selfish. It might be the most generous thing you ever do. So where does this leave us? Where does it leave Thomas, pounding on that door inside himself? Where does it leave you, watching this video at whatever hour you're watching it, with whatever weight you're carrying tonight? It leaves us here, at the only place change has ever actually happened. This moment. Not tomorrow's cleaner version of today. Not the life that begins when circumstances align. This exact, imperfect, inconvenient moment, with all its noise and hesitation and half-finished dreams. The version of you that never existed doesn't have to stay that way. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need the applause to come before the attempt. You need one small movement in the direction of the person you know, somewhere beneath all that noise you were built to be. Thomas still has time. And so do you. If this video made you think, or if you felt the weight of that unlived potential yourself, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe someone in your life needs to hear this today, share it with them. Sometimes the most important thing we can do for each other is remind one another that the door is still open.